Hi, welcome to another episode of our Museum Mondays with the Sacramento History Museum. I'm Allie, and today we're talking about the Bridges of Sacramento. Now, there are dozens and dozens of bridges in Sacramento crossing both the Sacramento and the American River, and we don't have time to talk about all of them today. So I wanted to focus on the Tower Bridge and the I Street Bridge, which are two bridges closest to the museum and also pretty significant to our history. So I am actually standing on the Tower Bridge right now. It's a bit windy and loud today, so I hope you can bear with me and can hear me okay. But before we talk about the Tower Bridge, I want to talk about the I Street Bridge. And I want to talk about where we are. So right now we are kind of in the heart of the original city. We are very close to the Capitol. We're near Old Sacramento, where the city sort of blossomed. And these bridges were very important connections because they had to connect not only the two sides of the river, but two different cities, Sacramento and West Sacramento, and two different counties even, Sacramento County and Yolo County. So these bridges were really significant. Now, the I Street Bridge is a historic metal truss swing bridge. What exactly does that mean? Well, you can see what it looks like right there. It has not a high clearance above the water. So if a boat that is large, like say our Delta King here in front, needed to go under the bridge would have to find a way for that boat to pass. And so it pivots. It swings open 90 degrees. Whoop. Here is a picture of it open. The boat right there. You can see it's not connected at the edges. It's swung open there. That is what a swing bridge does. So that is the I Street Bridge, how it opens as a historic bridge. It is quite a large bridge. It actually weighs 7 million pounds. It is, let me get the exact number here, 900 feet long with a 330-foot main swing span. So it was built in 1911. It's a double-deck bridge, which means the top level, which you can probably see right now, has cars and pedestrians on it, and that bottom level is for railroad traffic. It was built to replace a bridge that was already there, the 1867 Timber Howe Truss Bridge. So that was also a swing bridge. It looked very similar and swung in a similar manner, but it was made out of wood. And it was starting to succumb to the elements over time. And so in the early 1900s, they had some new wood preservation techniques. Metal was becoming more affordable, easier to construct with and to build with. So it was rebuilt with these new, more materials that had better longevity to them. And so today, though, our populations continue to increase. And there are some that think that I Street Bridge is not going to cut it anymore. It is not ADA accessible for pedestrians. It has very narrow lanes, and there's no room for bicycles. So they actually started the I Street Replacement Project. And they just finalized the plans last year and are planning to start construction this year on a new bridge. So here is what the new I Street Bridge will look like. And here is a map of where it will go. So this right here is the Sacramento History Museum. There is the current I Street Bridge. And here's where the new bridge will go. So it'll actually go through the Sacramento rail yards connecting over to West Sacramento. And they are going to reroute traffic and get rid of these roads. But the I Street Bridge will still stay there. It's a historic bridge. It was put on the National Register of Historic Places, thank you, Zoe, in 1982, and it is actually the oldest swing bridge in California. So it is going to stay for that railroad connection, and they're currently looking into ways to make the top a pedestrian and bicycle only bridge. And then I just want to show this picture really quickly because I think it's so important with what we're saying about the connections in this part of town. So here will be the new I Street Bridge. Here's the original I Street Bridge. And way in the back here is the Tower Bridge where we're standing right now. So you can see how close they all are, but how we need all these connections across this part of Sacramento's river. All right, so now we're going to talk about the Tower Bridge. This one is newer. So there was actually a different bridge built here in 1911, the same time as the I Street Bridge, the M Street Bridge. And it was very similar. It looked almost identical. It was another swing truss bridge. So here's what it looked like. And you can just barely see the remnants of its structure along the Sacramento side of the river near the Joe's Crab Shack building. The Tower Bridge is a vertical lift bridge. So what does that mean? This is what happens when a boat needs to go under the Tower Bridge. The middle section actually lifts up. It can go so that it'll be 100 feet above high water, and then boats can sail under before it will lower again for traffic to resume. This is a single-decker bridge. It's not a double-decker like our I Street Bridge and our M Street Bridge were, but it did used to have railroad traffic on it. So it was built in the 30s. 1934 is when construction officially started, but it was a long debate between Sacramento County, the state of California, and the different railroad organizations that needed to use this bridge. So it was finally built after they all came to an agreement and they found the money. This was also during the Great Depression. And so it was challenging to be able to get the support for such a large capital project. With the help of the Public Works Department of the state of California, this bridge did get the funding it needed, and it was able to provide 1,500 jobs in a time when the effects of the Great Depression were really felt here in Sacramento. And so when it was completed, it was actually seen as a sort of symbol of the future, something with hope and inspiration as we were moving into a new time out of the Great Depression. And it looks very different. It's very iconic. And although it's not quite as famous as the Tower Bridge in London, this Tower Bridge has a unique look because it was designed not by an engineer this time, but by an architect, Alfred Eichler. And he built it with the streamlined modern influence and Art Deco influence to make it look the way it does today. The first railroad car to cross this bridge was in November 7th of 1935, but it wasn't officially dedicated until December 15th. And it was a big to-do. The mayor at the time, Frank Merriam, dedicated the bridge and he led a parade across it. They also released 1,000 homing pigeons all throughout the state of California, spreading news that the bridge had been completed. It was the first vertical lift bridge in the California highway system. And then it was also added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1982. It hasn't changed too much over time. In the 60s, those railroad tracks were taken out and it was expanded to be 4 lanes instead of 2. And it went through quite a few paint jobs, and that's a controversy if you've lived here in Sacramento for some time you might be familiar with. So when it was originally painted, it was painted in aluminum color, and the concrete pylons at the bases and the edges of it were painted sky blue. People hated the aluminum color. They said it reflected too much, there was glare, it was blinding them in their eyes. And eventually those pylons were just too much to maintain, so they let the color fade away and they look concrete today. So then they painted it in 1976 as part of bicentennial celebrations throughout this state, a sort of yellow ochre color. And they did so because from the Tower Bridge, and you can't see it great from where Zoe and I are standing, but it is a direct view to the state capitol, the very end there. And at the time, the cupola was gilded with gilt leaf gold, and they wanted to kind of mirror that look. But that paint started to fade, and then in 2001, they took a vote of anyone within a 35-mile radius of the bridge was able to vote for what color it would be. And the choices were green, all gold, silver and gold, or burgundy silver and gold. And gold was the winner. But once it was painted the gold it is today, people started complaining. It wasn't the gilded gold they had expected, it was more of a muted yellow. And there are many who think it should have actually been painted copper, because if you look at the surrounding area and buildings like the ziggurat, that thought that might have blended in better. The paint here was put on in 2002. It is supposed to be good for about 30 years, so I'm curious to see if around 2030, 2032, if we're going to see another vote, and maybe it'll turn into a different color. Also, well before then, we'll have our new I Street Bridge. That should be completed in 2022. Sometime next year. So it'll be interesting to see how our bridges in Sacramento and the waterfront have changed by then. Thank you so much for joining us for Museum Monday today. Next week, we will be telling more stories from the river. Very close to that I Street Bridge, actually, we're going to be talking about Sacramento's first prisons And they weren't buildings on land, they were actually barges on the river. So we hope you'll join us next Monday at 3 o'clock for those stories. Thank you so much. Bye.